Hi everyone, welcome to today's live analysis session. Right, so as always, we are doing the live analysis sessions on Wednesdays and Fridays. So on Wednesdays, we'll do a review of the previous calls, and then the same thing again on Friday. Right, so I'll just give it about 1 to 2 more minutes, right, for more people to join us, and then we'll get the session started. And then at the same time as well, right, if you guys have any questions or any chart setups that you want me to take a look at, right, please do put them under the questions chat. I'll also have the questions chat open as well. So if there is anything that, I can see any of the questions that you guys have. So let me just bring up the chat. Right, so if you guys have any questions or any chat requests, right, that you want us to take a look at, please put them under the chat so that we can do the analysis together. And also along the way, if I'm going too fast or too slow, right, do let me know as well. Okay, so let's give it about 1 more minute for more people to stream in. So maybe for today, I'll just share a bit more as to the charts that we'll be covering as well. So we'll be doing a review of Euro dollar and Pound dollar, as well as dollar index. So this will be based on Wednesday's call. And then for today, we will be doing a setup, or rather an outlook on Aussie dollar. Right, so that would be one on Aussie dollar as well as dollar CAD. So those will be the two that we are looking at. Okay, just give me 1 moment. Okay, so let's get the session started. So for those of you guys who just joined us, right, a very warm welcome. Let me just bring up my screen. Okay, so for today, we will be covering Vantage Live Analysis session. So I'm Lee Sing. Right, so just a quick introduction of myself. I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. I'm also part of the team that's recognized by the Technical Analyst Awards as finalist for the Technical Analyst Awards for 4 consecutive years, right? You can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So if you guys are watching a recording and you have any questions regarding the content that comes up on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, right, feel free to drop me a LinkedIn message. If you are with us live right now, do put your questions under the questions chat, right, and we'll do our best to answer them. So before we get the session started, just a quick disclaimer. The information presented here is not to be treated as investment advice. It's for educational purposes only. So this is the agenda that we will be covering for today, right? So as always, we will hop onto the economic calendar first. So for this, we will look at the key news events that are coming up, right? And this is important because we want to make sure that if there are any key interest rate decisions or even key data, for example, your non-farm payroll, jobs data, or inflation data, we want to be aware of this economic releases. So this would be on the economic events, and following up with that, we will have our trade setups as well as review. So for the trade setups, right, or rather the trade review, we are covering we're reviewing what we have covered on Wednesday, right? So that's 2 days back. So essentially, we covered 2 setups on Euro dollar and Pound dollar. We took a look at dollar index as well, right? So we will be doing a review of this. And then following that, we will also have the Q&A session. So actually throughout the session, right, we will be opening, if you guys have any questions, right, just leave your questions under the chat and we will get to them. Okay, so this is the agenda that we are covering for today. Okay, so just before we hop on to take a look at dollar index, Pound dollar, and Euro dollar, right, the calls that were made on Wednesdays, let's just take a look at the economic calendar first. So let me just bring that up, right? So over here. So for economic calendar, you can go to vantagemarkets.com. And then under education and tools, right, you see the economic calendar here. So you can also check out the analysis. So I'll be showing you guys that later as well, right? So this is basically the economic calendar. You can see that this would be the impact on the currencies. Generally, I look at just the G7 currencies, right? So this would be the one. So it depends on the setups that you are looking at as well. And so coming up, you can see that the main ones for today would mainly be on CAD. So this will be CAD retail sales data, right? So this would give an insight as to the strength of the domestic economy, right? So essentially how the Canada's economy is holding up, right, in face of this rising price pressures. So this is mainly on CAD for today, okay? So this would be on the economic calendar, right? Something else to take note of for the economic calendar that I want to highlight as well, right? So for those of you guys who are new to this, essentially the ones with the darker colors, right? So the ones in red would be the ones with higher impact, right? Whereas this ones over here, right, the ones in gray, the ones in yellow are the ones with the lower impact. So just something to keep in mind, right? So in general for today, the high impact news release would mainly involve the CAD. Okay, so now that we have covered the economic calendar, let's take a look at our trade setups. So on Wednesday, right, we covered 3 setups on dollar index, euro dollar, and pound dollar. So this would be the setups that we are doing for today, or rather we are reviewing, right? So this is the one that we have covered so far. So let's take a look at dollar index first. So this is on dollar index, right? So you can see that dollar index is currently testing the resistance area that we have highlighted. So how you can read this chart, right? So this is the marker that we have included at that point in time where we were looking at the chart. So the chart analysis was done on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, this would be somewhere here. Oops. So this region here, right? So essentially we have this is how price played out after. So let me just explain the analysis on this, right? So as always, we start from the higher time frame first. So on the higher time frame on dollar index, right? So there's nothing much on the weekly, right? So if I go to the weekly time frame, you can see that prices rallied higher, but there isn't a very clear market structure on the weekly. At least not with this recent move where we saw this rally. If you go on to the daily time frame, on the daily time frame, you can see that prices are in a bullish market structure. How so? Right, so let's take a look at, or rather let's trace out the price movement. You can see that prices are forming your higher lows and higher highs. So as with the market structure webinar that we covered on Thursdays, right? What we have over here is that in a bullish market structure, prices would form your higher lows and higher highs, and only on the break of the structure would it suggest a change in trend. So right now on the daily time frame, you can see that this is the new low that's being formed and prices pushed higher. We have marked out on the 4 hours over here the different support and resistance areas, right? So prices are still holding on support level, as you can see over here. So this is the last support region that we highlighted. So there's this area where we saw this, right, a couple of weeks back, where we saw price bounce off this region. And then this is the second support area that we've highlighted. So you can see that price came into this region, tested, right? And right now we're on the resistance. So I believe the resistance is on the 1 hour, right? So back when we saw this. So this is the resistance level, right? So there's 2 levels. In fact, they are the resistance levels, the one highlighted in blue. So how we got these levels over here, right? If you take a look at the most recent, again, the pullback within this region itself, you can see that there is, again, right, on this move. So let's just focus on this portion of the chart on the 1 hour. You can see bearish market structure here with the break of the recent low. And this is when we saw the pullback. How we identified this zone as a resistance, right? You can look at the interaction between demand and supply here. You can see that essentially price came in. So notice this area. Let me just highlight this in a different color. So essentially over here, you can see that price came in and price respected this region as a support over here before it failed. So when we know that support regions, right, or rather when demand areas fail, it creates supply regions. So in this case, you can see that this is the supply area, which is why we highlighted this blue zone here and extend it across. And this is the resistance area where we saw price come into this region once and this reversal here before it continued higher and back into this region again. Okay, so this is how we got the zone, right? In terms of the levels that we have highlighted here, this level, it's basically a Fibonacci retracement level, right? So recall when we want to do Fibonacci retracement, we want to identify the last move before the pullback. So if you want to use Fibonacci retracement to find resistance, right, essentially we need to identify a high. The last move, right, we will be using the high as the starting point of the Fibonacci retracement and the low as the ending point of the Fibonacci retracement. So that's how we got the 78.6 Fibonacci retracement. For extension levels, there are zigzag patterns, right? So essentially, this is the zigzag pattern we've identified, and these are the 3 points that we use as reference points to find a 100% extension. So if all of this seems very unfamiliar, right? Do look at the recordings, right? So we do record every session. So take a look at the recording on 18 October. They should be up on Vantage YouTube page, right? If not, just give it about 1 to 2 days. Okay, so this is the zone that we've highlighted. So you can see that this is the resistance area. But as we've seen, right, on the daily time frame, you can see that right now prices are still holding on to the bullish market structure on this region itself. So we have also a higher resistance region over here, right? So once price breaks above this resistance area for me, this region over here. So let me just put an exact number to this, right? So this is at around, this is at 113.206. So this is the first resistance area, right, which prices are currently holding. We saw that test and the reversal of this region once. So let me just remove the marker. So you can see that on the higher time frame, prices are still holding above the ascending line. It's still holding above the support. It did a reaction of this 1 hour's resistance area here, right? We saw this rejection once. Right now, prices are pushing higher. If we see a break of this resistance, I think we could see more upside into this resistance area here. So this is my view on dollar index. On the higher time frame, especially on the daily, it's still bullish. On the 4 hours as well, right? So right now, as long as price holds within the support region, as long as it holds above this ascending trend line, I think that we could still see more upside. Of course, once price reaches this level, then this is another area we need to keep in mind. So this is my view on dollar index, right? These are the key levels that we have. I think on the 4 hours on the daily, it's still showing bullish market structure, right? So for in this case, as long as price holds above this region, so this stands at around 111.80. So this support region over here, my view is still bullish. So this is on dollar index. Let's take a look at euro dollar. Okay, so I have a few questions. I'm sorry, I seem to miss the questions. Let me just put it, open up the Q&A chat. Okay. Okay, great. I'm great that you can see the screen now. Okay. So if you guys have any other questions as well, right, do put them in the chat. Okay, so let's take a look at euro dollar. Okay, so this is our view on euro dollar. Again, I'll explain it from the higher time frame first. So from the higher time frame, you can see, oops, sorry for that. So let's start with the daily time frame. Again, this is the marker. So on the higher time frame, you can see that this is the region, right? We highlighted as a resistance because of how price consolidated and then failed. So this is the resistance area. Price came in and tested this resistance area. This is on the daily time frame, hence the bearish bias. If you go to the 4 hours time frame, you can see that this region, same thing, right? So this is the last resistance area we've highlighted. The reason why we highlighted this is because, again, of the interaction with price. We saw how price interacted as a resistance and then tested this region as a support. Okay, so you can see this movement over here. You can take a look at it in line chart as well, very clear level that divides this chart neatly across. So this is the region that we have highlighted, right? And also in line with this, we did a Fibonacci retracement. So again, right, if we want to use Fibonacci retracement to find resistance, what we need to do is first identify the last move. The last move is this region over here before we saw the pullback. So if you want to use Fibonacci retracement to find resistance, identify the high, because this is what you will be using as your starting point. And then the low over here, and this will be the ending point. So that is what we did, right? So use the retracement starting from the high here, ending at the low. That's how you got the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement that you have here. So this is one level, right? So our view on this, right? So this is on a 4 hours time frame. Let's go down to the smaller time frame. So it's our view on Wednesday, right? So essentially bearish from this area down. So this was where we did the chart. So back on Wednesday, right? This was how the chart looked like. So let me just do a replay of it, right? So essentially this is our view. Again, right? So price came into this region. The gray zone that we have marked out, this is the 4 hours resistance area, right? So this is the 4 hours resistance area. Again, we've marked out the smaller time frame support, which is this M30 area over here. You saw how price interacted with this region, right? If I had to draw a horizontal line across, if I were to put it in line chart, you can see it very clearly as well, how price interacted with this region 3 times before it failed completely. So this is the support region we've highlighted. We saw that failure, and you know that when demand fails or when support fails, it creates supply, right? Or resistance, right? So depending on how you like to put it, but the idea is that when there's support, right, and support fails, it creates resistance, or in this case, you can look at it as a demand zone. When demand fails, it creates supply. So this is the region, right? So this is the M30 resistance zone. So our view on this is that we have highlighted this area, right? So we're bearish on this move. So this is the resistance area. Stop loss, rather not stop loss, but rather the place that you want to get out of the trade where you're wrong is this region over here. The reason why we highlighted this region over here, it's because if you take a look at it in this area, right? Once price breaks above this H4 resistance area, this is when we want to get out of the trade. Hence the level, right, where we are wrong, we just want to put it slightly higher than the last structure. So this is basically the setup, right? So this is the resistance area we've highlighted in terms of the Fibonacci confluence, right? So on Wednesday, we mentioned Fibonacci confluence level. So essentially the idea is that we're trying to find if there are any key levels that price lines line up with, right? And this Fibonacci retracement extension levels, these are zones that we've highlighted. So you can see that we've highlighted this resistance zones, and along with that, we found two retracement, or rather two levels, right? Fibonacci confluence levels that line up here. So we're bearish on this, right? Once price enters this, so in back when we saw on Wednesday, there isn't any movement here because prices are trading within the zone. We've highlighted the support region. We've highlighted the resistance area. This is the next level, the next target. So this region over here. And then if price breaks below this blue zone, it goes further, right? So how you can read this is that taking a look at the color of the zones, the one in gray are the ones with higher time frames. So these are the higher time frames region. And the ones in blue are the ones on the smaller time frame. So in this case, this is the M30. The ones in blue are the M30 region, right? Because I'm currently on the M30 time frame. And the ones in gray are highlighted because that's the region that we got from the 4 hours time frame. So in this case, right, this is the bearish area. So price played out pretty nicely on this. So let me just remove this. So you can see, right, so after our analysis on Wednesday, price pushed up into this region. And right now we're seeing this huge push down here. So this is on the euro dollar. Right, so this is still the same region, right? I'm still keeping a lookout for this region. The same thing you can see over here in terms of how price interacted. There is support, right? And then this area here. So for me, right, I'm still bearish, but of course, once price enters into this region, then this is an area we need to be careful of, right? Because we need a clear break of this region and a retest for further downside. So this is my outlook on euro dollar, right? Okay, I have a request for euro yen as well, right? So let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's take a look at euro yen. Same thing, right? Starting from the higher time frame. So you can see on the higher time frame, right? And we have DAX as well by further. Okay, yep. So we'll take a look at DAX as well. Okay, so let's take a look at euro yen. So on the monthly time frame first, you can see on euro yen over here in terms of just pure support resistance levels. This is a high. You can see this region, strong push up, and then that rejection. Right, so this is a high. So I just want to mark this out as a monthly high, just a level for me to keep in mind over here. So this is one, right? So this is the monthly high. I'll probably put this in a darker color, and this as, I'll just put it as MH, right? So that's monthly high. So this is the area over here, right? In terms of taking a look at again, right? This is the monthly. Let's take a look at the weekly time frame. So you can see here, right? Just before I go on to the weekly time frame, you have a monthly resistance. In terms of the structure, you can see on this region, right? So just to backtrack a little bit, let's just focus on this portion of the chart. So again, right? Demand supply zones. So this region over here, you can see that this area, right? Price came in, we saw this interaction. So price held, and then it pushed down. So we probably have to zoom into the weekly time frame, but this is the idea. There is demand fail, it creates supply, right? So this is the region. Let's go to the weekly and we can see it clearer. Okay, let me just backtrack slightly. Let's zoom into this region, right? So same area. So we have demand, right? So this is the region, this is the demand. Same thing, you can see how price interacted with this area, right? So if you take a look at it, if you want to look at it in line chart, you can see it as well. Very clear support level over here. Price came in, tested multiple times, this region. Let me put it in a different color. Let's say in blue, right? So you have the support region. And then you see how price reacted over here. So there is this support area and then price failed, right? So this is the candle that still held within the zone before it fails. So once you push or rather you shrink the chart, you can see that price came in, and this time, right, this is the resistance area. So on the weekly time frame, price have yet to reach this resistance zone, but we do have a monthly high over here, right? So if this resistance zone is higher and you're taking any long positions, I would be more mindful of this monthly high first, right? Because this is a key level where we saw the rejection once. So this is on a higher time frame. So I've marked out these zones, right? So since we have a monthly high that's being marked out over here, I will not consider this region, right? Because this is on the higher time frame. This is on the weekly, right? Which means that we will be seeing further movement, and it has to cross above this monthly high first before we even consider this region here. So in this case, right, I'll just remove this. This is just good for us to know. But since we have a lower level to keep in mind, this will be the level that I'm using. So this is the monthly high over here. Now let's take a look at the weekly structure. So if you take a look at the weekly structure here, you can see this area. So you can see in this region itself, at least on the weekly, you have bullish market structure. How so? Look at the highs and lows that are being formed. This is the high, this is the last high, and right now you can see that prices are also forming lower lows. So on the weekly time frame, it's still bullish market structure coming into this region. Okay, so just a interesting fact, right? Euro dollar and euro yen, they used to be more positively correlated, right? But ever since, the yen's weakness and also interest rates differential, so this is more on the fundamental side where basically your Fed is extremely hawkish, right? So Fed is talking about raising rates, possibly to around 4.75% to 5%, possibly that region, right? Depending on how inflation data plays out, but that's the idea. And because of that, it's pushing the dollar much higher. Whereas for the yen side, right, yen has been very weak, right? So if you just take a look at JXY, so this is the Japanese yen, right? So the yen index, you can see that yen, if I go to a monthly, right, it has actually been really weak, right? So that's probably the reason why, right? While euro dollar is pushing lower, your euro yen is actually much higher, it's going higher, right? So partly driven by the yen's weakness. So, okay, so back to where we were. So we are here, right? So this is on the weekly time frame. If you take a look at the daily time frame, it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, so this is interesting, right? So right now, on the daily time frame, there is a clear level that we have over here. You can see that this level was a previous resistance turn support level. How so? You can see that price came in, right? So essentially price came in and respected this area multiple times. So this region, I will just take the last candle that we have at the high, right? So you extend to the left and right. Oops. Okay, this region over here, right? So you can see that price came in, essentially interacted with this area, this zone. Here, this is the last high. So same thing, right, as with support resistance areas. This would be the last area that caused the failure of this high. The specific candle that caused the failure of this high, right, would be this candle over here. You can see that this is the last candle that still holds within the zone before price breaks out of it. So this would be the region for me. On the daily, this would be the first daily region. So this candle here, right? So this would be the daily region. This is the first region over here. In terms of Fibonacci retracement, right? So now we have identified the zone. For Fibonacci retracement, right, it's the same thing. You want to identify the move, right? So you can see that this is the push up before that pullback. So we can take a Fibonacci retracement from this move to this high over here, right? So this is one. The other one that we can take, you can see that you can consider this one move and the pullback. So this is the other one, starting from this low and this high. Okay, so let's take a look at this Fibonacci retracement. This is the first one here. I will use this as a low because we are using Fibonacci retracement to find support. So this is the low and this is the high. So let's take a look at that. So Fibonacci retracement of the move, right? Taking this low and ending at the high. So this is the region. Same thing, right? You can open up the key levels. So these are the default levels. You can see these levels, right? So if you have a TradingView account, right, these are all the regions. So same thing, just open up the levels. Generally, I look at 61.8 and 78.6. These are the main levels, right? But all the other levels are valid as well. So in this region specifically, right, you can see the 50% retracement lines up with this region. This is the candle that I've identified as the demand area on the daily. It's also the last candle, right, before we saw that failure. If you want to take a look at it in line chart, you can see this clearly as well in terms of how price tested and held this region. If I were to draw a horizontal line across, you can see this clearly, right? So price basically testing this region as a resistance. And then once resistance failed, it became the new support level, this region here. Okay, so just tying back to support resistance levels concept that we covered in the previous session. I mean on Thursdays, right? So in this case, right, this is the 50% retracement. We can also take this retracement level. This is the push up and the pullback. So this is the low and this is the high. So let's take a look at that. Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high, same thing. Let me just turn on the magnet mode so that I can actually capture the reversal points nicely. Okay, same thing here, right? So these are the key levels. So these are all the levels that we have. So in this example specifically, right, let me just change the color so we can see the difference. So you can see this region, right? So we have two retracement levels here. The one is the 38.2 retracement that's taken from this move. And the other is the 50% that's taken from this move. Okay, so this is the confluence level. This is the demand region, right? So this is on the daily time frame. This is the first area that we have over here. And that is the higher time frames resistance, which is this region here. So if we take a look at, if you take a look at it on a 4 hours time frame, right, prices are trading in the middle of nowhere. There isn't any region per se, right? What I would want to highlight on the 1 hour is that this is a smaller time frames area. So you can see if you take a look at it on the 1 hour, but this is extremely small. So there isn't any clear market structure. You have this last high on the 1 hour, essentially price coming in and respecting this region. You can see this area over here. This is the demand area, right? This is on a 1 hour time frame. So ideally what we want to see is a clear break of the last high and a pullback within this zone, right? If this zone fails, we could see a deeper pullback. So this is the 1 hour zone. If this zone fails, we could see a deeper pullback into this region. But right now, honestly, where it is right now, right, because there isn't any clear structure form, right? I'm just marking out the zones, but there is no clear setup for me. Overall, for me, it's still more bullish. So I think that we could, until there's a clear reversal in terms of market structure, right now, where it is on a 1 hour time frame, right now we're seeing this consolidation. So we'll probably see a clear breakout, right? Once we see that, then a clearer market structure to be formed there. But where it is currently, it's more bullish for me with these two zones highlighted. Okay, so this is my view on Euro Yen, right? There isn't any clear level where prices are at right now. So, yep, so this is the region. Okay. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Henning. Okay, you're very welcome, Henning. Okay, let's take a look at DAX as well, right? Before I go on to pound dollar, which is the review, right? Okay, so it seems that we have reviewed DAX before as well. So let's take a look at it. So again, right, higher time frame first. So on the higher time frame, we marked out the interaction on the weekly. You can see that there is this resistance area, right? So strong push up before that resistance. This is the supply area. And then we saw how price interacted with it before it pushed much higher. So this created our demand area over here. And right now prices are testing within this region. This is on the weekly, right? So prices are sitting on a weekly support area. But just because it's on a higher time frame support doesn't mean that it's bullish. This is very important, right? So it's important to keep in mind that we need to see the smaller time frames change in market structure, right? So if you take a look at the daily, you can see that where it is, right? So this was back when we reviewed it over here, right? So we're still bearish, and we also highlighted this region, right? You can see that prices are currently testing below this descending trend line, and it actually tapped into this resistance area that we've marked out. So the one in gray, you can see this region. Okay, this region here. So this, I believe we reviewed it a few weeks back, but the idea is that you can see here, right, bearish market structure coming into this region. How so? You can see that prices are still forming lower lows and lower highs. You can see this region, last break of structure, and then the pullback. So at least on the daily time frame, let me just remove this marking because it's not relevant. But the idea is that on the higher time frame, it's still bearish. You can see this with the lower lows and lower highs that are being formed. Okay, we marked out this resistance area previously. So if you go to the 4 hours, I think you can see this clearer, right? This region is the same thing, right? Essentially support term resistance areas. So this is the region that we've marked out. I believe this is on the daily time frame, but this is the idea, right? So same thing, this is the last support. So how we got this gray zone previously was because of this area. You can see that this is the last support area, and price held. You can see this acknowledgement of the support before it fails. So this creates a supply region. So that's why we marked out this area that you see earlier in gray, right? So back then it was here, because that was when we do the analysis. So all I did was just extended it to the right slightly. So you can see that price came in, tapped into this region. It's still holding below the descending trend line. We also did a Fibonacci retracement. So if you want to use Fibonacci retracement to find resistance, right, you identify the move. This is the last push before the pullback. So this is the high where we have the start of the retracement, and this is the low where we will be taking as the end of the retracement, right? So essentially we take the retracement, this is 0.1 and this is 0.2. So when we do the retracement, this is how we got the 61.8 retracement. So you can see price came in, acknowledges this resistance region, and right now it's just pushing lower. So yeah, so for me, right, as long as price holds below this region, this descending trend line, this resistance area, until we see a clear break, so you can see that in terms of structure, this is the last high and that push down. So until we see a clear break of this area itself, as long as price holds within this last leg, for me, it's still bearish, right? So this is my view on DAX over here, right? So this is the last high. So you want to mark this out as the last daily high. So this is the area where we would see a change in structure. So if you take a look at it in terms of the line chart, you can see this move as well. Very clear lower lows and lower highs being formed. So this is the region, right? And this is the last high. So when price breaks above this region, then I think we could see a potential change in daily structure and also respecting this weekly support area. But until that happens, right, for me, it's still bearish. So this is my view on DAX, right? So I hope that helps further. Okay, let me take a look at pound dollar, right? So back to our review. So we're looking at pound dollar. So let's take a look at pound dollar for the setup. Okay, so back to our pound dollar. Okay, so this is on pound dollar. Same thing, we highlighted the higher time frame. So higher time frame region, maybe let's just see how the setup played out first. Okay, so this played out very well, right? So this is on pound dollar. Okay, so this is a really nice setup. So essentially, same thing, we saw the trade setup. This was back on Wednesday, so it's here. Right, so we're bearish here. So the colored candles essentially represent our projection. So we're bearish from this area. I'll explain the levels again, right? If you guys want a detailed analysis of how we got all these levels and the thought process behind it, right? Do check out 18 October's recording. Okay, so yeah, so this is this played out very nicely, right? So let's again run through the setup. Let me just remove this. So again, on the higher time frame first, right? So same thing, higher time frame, you can see that prices are sitting on the daily time frame. This was the previous support region. Oops, let me take out the marker. This was the previous support region over here. And then price tested this region and it pushed down, tested as a resistance as well. So this was the resistance area that we've highlighted. And then on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that price came in to tap this region twice. It respected this once and then again over here. This is on the 4 hours time frame. When you go down to the 1 hour time frame, so essentially we know that on the higher time frame, prices are sitting on the resistance area, right? You saw price. Let me just remove this movement here. Okay, so we saw price coming into this resistance area, which is this blue zone that we have, right? And it respected this region. Price came into this region again, right? And then coming in over here, this is on your 1 hour. We can see this region itself, right? On the 1 hour time frame, this is essentially the last leg, and then the pullback. So how we identified this region as the entry point or the resistance area that we want to watch, it's basically looking at, again, how price interact with one another. This is extremely important, right? So if price comes in and respected this zone as a support and then failed and then tested again as a resistance, you see this in terms of how the candles react here. Or if you take a look at it in line chart, right, you can see this region as well. Basically, this line that splits the chart very neatly across. So this is the area, right? Hence, we highlighted this region. We also did a Fibonacci retracement of the move. So this is the push, assuming that this is the lowest point where we saw the pullback. We did the retracement starting from high, ending at the lowest point. That's how you got the 61.8 retracement. Okay. And then you can see that essentially this played out very nicely. How so? Price came into this region, tested as the resistance, and then it just pushed much lower. Let me just remove the replay. Okay, so this zone, so price came in. So this is the projection. Let me just remove this because now the setup is over, right? So essentially we highlighted this as the support area. Again, the reason why we highlighted this as a support area is because of the interaction. You saw how price respected this region 2 times. So this would be one area to consider as partials. So price came in, tapped into this region, pushed right into the resistance again, and continue lower. Now this over here, right, you can see in terms of structure, right, market structure has changed. How so? Again, if I were to pan out the move, this is the high, this is the last low, price push higher. So if we expect bullish or rather bullish move to continue, right, we're expecting a pullback within this leg, within this zone to continue to the upside. But you can see that for one, price broke this low. It broke this last low that we have over here, this region, right, the support area. And also you're seeing bearish market structure being formed here. You can see lower lows and lower highs being formed. Right, so this in this case, right, so what it tells me over here is that right now, right, prices are under bearish pressure. It also broke the structure. So any pullback, right, it's likely that price will continue to the downside. So this is, yeah, just something to keep in mind on the market structure on the 1 hour time frame. You also have potentially this bearish channel being formed, right? So this is the idea. So this is on euro dollar, right? Currently, the next zone that we have coming into this region, it would be this area over here. So this is the area. But if you take a look at it on the 4 hours, right? So again, just looking at the structure on the 4 hours, right? I would not, this is one zone to consider, but something interesting to keep in mind is that if you take a look at 4 hour structure, we have this push up and this is the low, right? And price continue higher. But what you have on the 1 hour is that it's telling you that prices are actually showing bearish market structure. What this tells me is that I can actually target this area here. So this is the last region. This is the 4 hours. You can take a look at it in line chart, right? Just to mark the 4 hours close. Okay, so this is the 4 hours close. This is one region to target. Or if you want to mark it in terms of zone, I would not highlight this region, but rather this area here. Okay, so this is the region. So I think once price breaks below, any pullback itself, right, we could see more downside into this area. But currently where it is, right, there isn't any nice setup, right? So we need to wait for a clear break above this region first, and then a pullback into the resistance area before more downside. So we will probably review this setup again on Tuesday, right? So right now it's just where it is. These are the levels, but there are no nice setups. Okay, so this is on euro dollar and sorry, not euro dollar, pound dollar. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, I missed one of the requests. So yeah, let's take a look at gold. So I believe we did a review on gold. Oh, okay, so this was the review, right? So price came into the daily low. You can see this region over here. So back when we did the review, we are short with this region, but price never came back to this area, right? And then it tapped into the support area and just continued to the downside. You see the respect for this support region. So again, right, price interacted with this region. And then where we see a close below, it became a support turn resistance area. And right now prices are on this daily low. Okay, so let's take a look at it on the higher time frame first. Again, the reason why we are bearish, right? This is actually because of the higher time frame. So let me just remove all this, right? Because the zones that we have, right? Prices interacted with this region already. So I believe this was done not in the previous session, right? So let me just remove all this markings and keep the weekly zone. So the weekly zone is this area. We have highlighted these two regions. So let me just remove the rest and only keep this. So I'll bring this back. So essentially on the weekly zone, you can see that we highlighted this region as the support area here. And the reason why we highlighted this is because if you take a look at how price play out on this region, there's a strong push up, a pullback, and then that break in structure. So this is the candle that we highlighted as the support area or demand, right? And then this region itself, this is the resistance area. If you can highlight it in terms of support resistance area, just looking at how price interacted with this region. So you can see this region here. Right, so essentially there's the support area. You saw how price interacted here. So with all the wicks in this region. Okay, so we have this support area and then price tested this region and it pushed much lower. You can see that in terms of the weekly time frame, it is also holding below your weekly descending channel. Right, so for a channel to be valid, you need at least a tap of the resistance twice. In fact, this one probably come in 3 times here, and then the support region twice as well. So this, for me, gold is still more bearish. You can see on the weekly time frame, it came into a resistance area, and right now it's just pushing lower. And also, if you take a look at it on the descending channel. This is basically the descending channel. So prices are pretty much still holding below resistance. This is the higher time frame. So this is on the weekly, right? It will go down to 1600. So 1600, let me just take a look at where 1600 is. Let me just put a line across that so that we're able to take a look at it. So 1600, so it's somewhere here. Okay, so prices are pushing lower. Okay, I think this level definitely possible. Why? Because if you take a look at it in terms of the structure, there isn't any support region that's holding it. The only thing that we have holding this region right now is this low over here. But if you take a look at it on the daily, the weekly, you can see bearish market structure. So for me, I think this region, right, definitely possible. Okay, so this is on the daily time frame. Let's go down to the 4 hours time frame. So daily, it's still bearish. You see this, right? Lower lows, lower highs being formed. This is the last low that we have, right? And prices are currently testing this region. This is the area. And you can see that it's currently in a weekly resistance, and this is the weekly support, right? So in fact, the weekly support stands at, let me see, yeah. The weekly support that we have in this region itself, this area, this is slightly lower, it's around 1575, but this is on the higher time frame. So on the smaller time frame, right, we could see a potential pullback first. Okay, so this is on the weekly and going to the 4 hours time frame. So this is the structure like on the 4 hours. So you can see on the 4 hours, right, essentially this is the last low that we have. You can highlight this area. This is the last low, right? So again, so right now prices are testing this region itself. Okay, so this is the 4 hours region. So prices are currently sitting on this region. If you take a look at it on the 1 hour time frame. So let me just remove the channel, right? Because so that we're able to get a clearer picture with just the most recent price movement. So let me just draw the zones neatly, right? So essentially how I got this 4 hours is just taking the last candle that we have over here and taking this low. So it's just this low here. So this is basically the region. You can see that right now prices are testing this region, but even coming into this region itself on your 1 hour, it's the same thing, right? Same story. You can see a structure of the market. It's still bearish, right? You can see prices forming your lower lows and lower highs. A clear break below the low and then this region itself. So for me, right, this is your last structure, or rather the last resistance area, you can call it, right? So basically you can see how price interacted with this region. This is the resistance. So until price breaks above this region, for me, it's still bearish. Not sure why the mouse it's slow, but this is the area. You can see the support area. So price coming in to test the support area and then as a resistance. So this is the region, right? So if we do see any upside, right, where it is currently, right, until it breaks this level, the upside is limited right now on gold. Okay, so this is the area. You can see that prices are also holding below. I'm not sure if there's a descending trend line, potentially this area here. So just something for us to keep in mind. Okay, so this is the area. So for me, my goal is still more my view on gold is still more bearish, right? Until there is a clear change in market structure. But currently on the 1 hour time frame, you can see that prices are just sitting on this region, right? So if any pullback that we have over here, this is the area. So one region that you want to consider on the smaller time frame, even maybe onto the 30 minutes, you can see this region over here, right? So same thing. How price interacted, you can see that price pushed up to form your higher lows and higher highs and a clear break below, and this is the last area. So this region itself, right, this could potentially be the region to consider. So you can see that this is the, again, interaction between support and demand areas, right? So this is the support area. And then price fail, it creates a resistance or supply area. So this region here, take a Fibonacci retracement of this, the strong push down and a pullback. So Fibonacci retracement with this low, with that high and this low as the reference points. So I'll take the retracement, right, starting from the high, ending at the low, open up the key levels, right? So these are the ones. So you can see the 61.8 lines up with the region I've highlighted, right? This is the golden ratio. So this is the short-term resistance level that I'm watching. And once price breaks above this level, right, this will be the next region. You can see, right, even on the 30 minutes itself, there's a, okay, maybe not so much on the 30 minutes, but you can see this region. Price testing as a support, failing, and then even the small zones that you have over here, right, respecting this region as a resistance, and then again here. So yeah, so those are the key levels for me on gold. Once price breaks below this level, right, the next region. So depending on how price play out over here, right? So if there's a clear push down, this region can serve as the resistance for the drop. So this is my view on gold, right? So right now where it is, there isn't any nice levels here. But this will be the key levels that I will watch. Okay, so that it's pretty much on gold, right? And I'll just take a look at one more setup, right? Since we are kind of running past the session. Dollar CAD. Let me take a look at dollar CAD. Okay, so this is on dollar CAD. Let me just bring out a different chart. Okay. So you can see dollar CAD on the weekly time frame itself. You can see this consolidation over here where price interacted. So price kind of moved sideways over here before that break. And right now prices are entering into this region again. If I take a look at the line chart, you can see this consolidation as well. This box where basically price interacted with and then failed. And right now on this region itself. Okay, so the move sideways and then right now prices entered into this region. You can see that tap or that spike into this area here. So this is one, right? So price entering into this region. You can see that on the 4 hours time frame, we have this area. So essentially on the 4 hours, this is, if you pan it out in terms of structure or even on the daily first, right? So we have this push up and price coming into this region. Right now it's just kind of hovering sideways. If you take a look at it on the 4 hours, on the 1 hour, you can see that there is basically bearish market structure coming here, right? We saw that push up. So for me, right, on dollar CAD, in terms of just resistance areas, this would be one area to watch. This resistance area over here, right? Same thing if you take a look at the Fibonacci retracement. In this case, there isn't any Fibonacci retracement specific to this, simply because of how it reacted here, right? So if I take a look at the Fibonacci retracement, it will just be 100%, right? Because this is the starting point and the high. So there isn't any Fibonacci retracement. So the other thing that we can check would be our Fibonacci extension. So Fibonacci extensions are basically zigzag patterns. So in this case, you can see that this is the zigzag pattern. Right, so having identified this zigzag pattern, we can take these 3 turning points to project our extension. So this would be point 1. So I'll take the Fibonacci extension tool, point 1, point 2, point 3. Right, so open up all the key levels. These are the ones that I use, right? The other one would be the 1.272. So it's basically this one. Okay, so these are the extension levels that I use. So in this example, you can see with the in line of the zone that we've highlighted, it will be a 1.618. So this is the region here. Okay, so this is one region that we have, right? Another area to keep in mind. So this is more bearish. Right? Another area to keep in mind, just looking at the interaction between support resistance areas, would be this region here. You can see this area, essentially how price interacted. So right now prices are in this region. If you take a look at the Fibonacci retracement of the move, this is the push down and the pullback. This is the high, this is the low. Same Fibonacci retracement, starting point, ending point. Okay, so Fibonacci retracement of the move from high to low, open up the key levels. Oh, in this case, the low, it's this lowest point here, because this low is actually lower. You compare the low of this low, right? This is actually lower. So in this case, same thing, open up the key levels. So 78.6 is slightly higher, right? So this is the zone. This is the resistance zone area to look at. So what we want to do, right, since prices are already in this region, same thing, look at your 15 minutes time frame. So you can see that coming into this region is still bullish market structure. How so? You can look, let me just focus on this portion of the chart, yeah? So in this case, you can see higher lows and higher highs coming into this region, and then that push up. So this is the low that we have, right? So in order to see a clear reversal, if prices are in this resistance area, a clear reversal, we want to see a clear break of this low here. Once price breaks below, right, we could play further downside. You can see that currently this demand area, it's supported very well, or rather it's respected multiple times. You saw this, again, small consolidation over here. and then price broke above it, and then it tested as a support level twice, or demand region twice. If you look at it in terms of the 15 minutes time frame, you can see as well, right, the small moves here before that break. So this is the support area, right? So this is the region we want price to break below before playing a downside, right? And in terms of the next target, you can target this low here. So this would be about the 1.3660 level. That is if we see this push down. Okay, so we need to wait for a clear break below this region first. This is the downside confirmation level. Okay, so yeah, so this is on dollar CAD. Right now where it is, right, you can see that it's still showing bullish structure coming in. So even though it is on a potential resistance area, we need to see a change in trend here first before playing the downside. So this is my view on dollar CAD, right? So I hope that yeah, we covered most of it, right, over here. So yeah, I believe we've covered most of the setups and all the questions that you guys have as well, right? So for other sessions, right, you can actually refer to vantagemarkets.com. So over there we will have the setups and also the schedule, right? So thanks everyone, right? As always, right? It's really glad to have you guys here. So thank you for that, right? And have a great weekend. So trade safe, stay safe, and we will catch you guys again next week.